Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join me tonight. It's one of the shows that I do on a regular basis that gives me the greatest pleasure. I talk to lots of authors and I interview a lot of people, but once a month I get to sit and just talk with Solaris BlueRavin and milk her for all it's worth, because she has so much knowledge and so much wisdom and so much insight that it's always an education to listen to her and to talk with her. And I chalk this up as one of the shows that I would never miss if I could avoid it, because she is sharing some of her precious time with us. She does have 2 other radio shows she does. They're all on Freedom Slips. And that's Friday and Saturday, I believe. So this is like her 3rd night of being on a podcast and sharing her information and wisdom. She has a lot of books, and I would highly recommend you reading her books. Start with the very first one and move your way through, because what she does is she takes you through the process of evolving within yourself. And if you start with the last book, you get lost. But if you start with the first book, she moves you very gently through a process that is just unbelievably wise and wonderful and applicable to today, and helps you to deal with your reality in a far better way than usual. I mean, evolving and growing is why we're here after all. And she is definitely the kind of person that can give you information that is absolutely applicable to your reality, but it's also applicable to your spiritual evolution, and that's why you're here in this avatar. You're learning, and your spirit is growing and gathering information. And she is an amazing wealth of knowledge. I highly recommend you check out her shows after this one, of course, and sit back, kick your shoes off, put your feet up, and enjoy being entertained by one of the best people around. Welcome to the show, Solaris.
Why, thank you, Barbara. You always have a lovely introduction for me, and it's wonderful to be here with you this month.
Well, it's easy to say great things about someone who's great. And
likewise.
We take turns with picking the topics for these Sunday shows, and it was your turn. So you want to explain to everybody where we're going?
Yeah, I thought it would be nice to kind of look at the architecture and the Masonic influence in connection to the architecture in DC. And so I started kind of assessing and looking on particular areas, and especially around the YouTube area, just to kind of get a glimpse of what's been going on. I'm sure people can relate to some of the Masonic teachings, and perhaps their family members were related to Masons or were Masons. But when you look and you see the architecture in DC, there's a significant imprint insofar as the design work goes, and how they had astronomers mapping out the borders in the district. It was very esoteric, in my opinion, and very well thought out. insofar as how the energy was going to flow and in alignment with the architecture. So, yeah, I thought we could kind of look at that, and you can give me your insight and intuition on that as well.
Well, I know a lot of the founding fathers were Masons, and I think that the Masonic influence has been subtly there ever since the foundation of the country. And when they went to map out what Washington was going to be, there are still markers there, I think, that were put down originally when they were scoping out exactly where they were going to put the buildings and erect and erect edifices. And if you look at
Hmm.
is it what is it? It is there's a Greek god. Is that on top of the Capitol?
You're not talking about Apollo. Which one?
Justice. There's this. I think it's is it Justice? There's we have Greek influence there, so that
Mhm.
the buildings originally when they were designed had a definitely Greek influence to them. They were not what I would call American as much as they had. Look at the Senate, look at look at the Capitol. I mean, it's 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 a lovely
Mm,
edifice.
right.
But it isn't just the original buildings though. When the Washington Monument went up, that also had Masonic inference to it.
Hmm.
Um, and when what I'm fascinated by is that even through time, when something new was going to go up on the landscape, there was a Mason involved in it to some degree, so that Masonic calculations were included. And I know the wall that had the Vietnam veterans on it. That has there was there was someone who was a Mason that was involved in placing that, so shadows fell at the appropriate place and things like that. So
Hmm.
they've been for hundreds of years, very quietly, still working on building and designing and expanding Washington, D.C.
Right. Exactly. When you talked about that the national monument, the Washington National Monument. So apparently that's where the cornerstone was placed, which I think is interesting because apparently that's was hollow and contained all kinds of artifacts. I'm not sure if they actually went into specifics about what the artifacts were, but I find that very interesting. And I guess at some point you could go to the top of it. Not familiar with that insofar as I don't know if you've ever been there and were able to access it at all.
I walked around it.
You did? Okay. From what I understand. So I wasn't even aware that you could actually go to the top of it. I guess you can, or maybe in the old days you could.
There was originally there were stones from all over the country that were donated to be part of the building,
Hmm.
and which I did not know originally. I thought that was really kind of cool. And at one point, I guess was it during a war, they had to stop construction on it for a while,
Right.
and then what was it
Yeah.
during World War II?
I thought it was before that. I was going to say around earlier than that. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure it was earlier.
And when they started in again, the bricks were different, which I
I
thought
want to
was
say
fascinating.
1848, but I might be wrong on that. I'd have to double check it. But I believe it was earlier. If I'm not mistaken.
And well, I think what's fascinating is its shadow falls in specific places. I mean, it was the buildings that are there were created so that there was a definite linkage to masonry in some way, shape, or form. And so the Masons still to this day have
Hmm.
impact into what how the design of the Capitol goes, which I think is fascinating when you think about how a Mason has to be involved in and have control over placement
Right.
and building and things like that, and how they've
Right.
managed to place these people in those positions over time, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's very strategic. And as a matter of fact, when I was looking into some of this information, the White House, Capitol, Jefferson, and Lincoln monuments and memorial are arranged as cardinal points around the Washington Monument, which I thought was really interesting. And also, some people theorize that it could represent the layout of a Masonic lodge, which I thought was interesting because north is the White House, east is the Capitol, west is the Lincoln Monument, and south is Jefferson. And then they were discussing how it's all oriented insofar as the energetics and association with that, which I think is very interesting. So very esoteric, and it was interesting because they called north a place of darkness where the White House is. I thought that was an interesting and almost ominous description of north or the location for the White House. And west was supposedly the station of the senior warden, closing of the day, which makes sense. And then they said south was the junior warden, sun at its meridian, and then the east sun capital, which, everything was so well thought out, as you were also commenting. I find it fascinating, to be honest. And apparently there's been a lot of research on this area. For me, I just followed like the energetics in association with this, but when you start looking at exactly what they were doing and how well thought out it was, it's really just amazing to me. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I think when you look at the original plans on a map, there's a star there, with major points that are definitely there. And there are places where markers have been were placed in the ground originally that are still there. And that goes back 200 and some years. So there is, while not all of our presidents have been Masons, a lot of them were. And I think that they still have an impact in certainly in Washington, D.C., in the architecture that's there. And as if the architecture is, in a way, creating a seal graphically. If you look down from above, you can hit those points and you can see the seal is still there, which is kind of a cool way of saying we've put our seal on this land, this country, and the seal is going to be there forever. And yet, the White House was burned down at one point, which I think is it was, and it was citizens that burned it down. It was during the Civil War, and originally the White House was built on a swamp, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
They were
very interesting how they were able to build all these areas from that.
Yeah, I if you look back at some of the old pictures, it's quite profound, because originally with the first couple of presidents, there was no fence around the White House. People could walk up, knock on the door, and talk to the president.
What happened? And then another thing is, it is the people's house any way you look at it.
Yeah.
So we should be welcome there, right?
Well, I think basically we are. I mean, I took my class to Washington, D.C. one year, and we did tour what was available to tour of the White House. And I think the thing that fascinated me was how every first lady got to pick her own china.
That is interesting.
Yeah, but that's an awful lot of china to have.
Right. Well, they always decorate. They always do their own thing, apparently, when they get in there, right?
They do. And well, Jackie Kennedy started, to bring back a lot of the old antiques that had been filtered out over time and shared all over the place. And she did a lot to bring it up to a better example of the American public and the American White House and everything. And we talked earlier how our president has been all over the world lately, and he was welcomed in England with the carriage ride and everything, and then of course castles and things like that. And then he went to the Far East, and they had their huge palaces and everything, and he came back to his little shack. And I understand why he wants to have a ballroom.
Well, we'll never see it. This is the problem I have is, I doubt anybody will be able to get in there and actually enjoy it except for the Billionaires Club. I mean, if you want to look at it like that, who's going to be in there? Are we going to be able to tour and go in there with
I
the
think,
festivities?
well,
Right?
I think probably. I think that it probably will be part of the tour of the White House and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, just the thought of being invited to a presidential event at the White House would terrify me. It's kind of like I have nothing to wear. Are you kidding
Oh,
me?
basic black. Oh, just kidding.
Basic black. Yeah. Oh God. It really, while it sounds like an exciting thing, not so much. I'm very comfortable these days, and I don't think I want to have to gussy up and
Mhm.
put on something that would be appropriate for that kind of event.
Right,
So my heart is not broken that I will never see the inside of the ballroom.
right. I've never toured the White House, and I must say I would have liked to have seen it before all the renovation and this, that, and the other. But yeah, maybe at some point in the Illusion of Space Time, I'll get in a glimpse and get in there, check it out.
Well, it's with what we have on available to us on YouTube and everything. It's quite easy to get enough YouTube so that you can
Yeah.
really do the whole thing. I mean,
Mhm.
you wouldn't be able. I don't think they even let people get to the place where the Lincoln bedroom is and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that
Right.
all you would see would be the downstairs parts. You wouldn't see the offices.
Mhm. Right.
Who
And
who
yeah,
cares? So I want to
that's
see the
true.
bunker.
Well, I'm more interested in the bunker too. Actually, the underground facilities, and yeah, that's my area for sure. And then I heard he redid the bathroom for, the Lincoln bathroom, supposedly. So that was redone recently. If you heard about that or not.
No.
Yeah. So apparently that's been redone, although I don't know. I mean, I kind of like the authenticity when it comes down to the original structures, but I get it. And like you were saying, there have been times when there's been a lot of renovation and things where we didn't realize that. Sometimes people forget.
Well,
And of course, but
yeah, I think there was a time where one of the president, I wish I could remember, one of the presidents and his wife had to move out because they had to gut the whole building because it was falling apart.
wow.
And when they did that, they laid a new. They were looking for the original cornerstone, and they couldn't find the original cornerstone,
Hmm,
but they did lay another cornerstone, and it was the Masons that laid the cornerstone. And I'm
okay.
not sure exactly what they put into it. I would think probably a copy of the Declaration of Independence, a copy
Hmm.
of the Constitution. Um,
Be interesting, wouldn't it? To me, like a time capsule. I always wanted to see what was in all those. What
Diet
kind of
Coke,
artifacts.
you know.
I think it'd be great, and I'm a firm believer in time capsules. So if you can create one and go in there and check it out, and I was under the impression too that I think the oldest federal monument that's still there is at the Jones Lighthouse original boundary stone that was placed by George Washington. Supposedly that's still there to mark the southern point of the federal district, is what they're saying. So that was placed with a Masonic ceremony, which I think is interesting. And that
Well,
same.
all of
Oh, go
the
ahead.
original buildings were placed, Masonically
Hmm.
speaking.
Right,
The-
ceremonial. Yeah.
And I know there are markers out in the woods someplace that are still there that were placed at that time frame that are still, there are little fences around them, but
Hmm.
they're still there. Um, I don't know that there was anything Masonic there, but when you look at the number of presidents who were Masons in
Hmm.
the past, it's really one interesting thing. I love trivia. Um, there's only one president whose family never owned slaves
Hmm.
in their history, and that's Trump because his family came over here way after slavery. But all of the other
Okay.
presidents
You broke up for a second.
all of the other presidents, their families, if you go back far enough, owned slaves. But Trump is the only one who didn't. So And somebody said that the White House was built on the back of black slaves. That's not true. It was the Irish that did that. The first one. I don't know if what I have no idea beyond that, but I do know that the original buildings were just they weren't built to last, and it was less than 100 years, and they had to totally gut the entire structure and
Amazing.
And redo it.
It makes you wonder what the bunker, how secure that was, even though it was built back in the day. I'm sure they're renovating that since he's already got it opened up.
I love the bunker that's underneath the hotel, and there are signs to the underground secret bunker. I mean, it's it will no longer be used, and they're using it for other stuff. But I thought it was hysterical that here they built this huge bunker, and it was big enough to hold the Senate and the Congress, and the word got out so that they couldn't use it for that, but they had to complete it. So I think they're using it for conventions and stuff like that now.
Sounds about right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
What's interesting is you do wonder with things like bunkers and secret storm shelters and stuff. There doesn't seem to be any Masonic impact there. But when you come to the city of Washington, D.C., the Masons were all over it. They were just all over it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's still part of the property, so nonetheless, it's right underneath. So once again, I'm sure they, as they did their consecration and this, that, and the other, it's associated with that to some degree, I would think.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that kind of energetic protection and shielding comes to mind, because when you're looking at why they would do these things, which would definitely be for being in alignment with cosmic flow, cosmic forces, in my opinion, very esoteric. I think it's fascinating, actually, that they did that. And the idea of just looking at the markers, that we have over there. The obelisk is a real beautiful one. But the energetics in association with the obelisk as well, I think that's just beautiful. There's some really pretty design work there.
Oh, yeah. And it's, if you go, I was looking at, when you were talking about, the architecture of the Masons and, of course, their forebears, the Templars. You do kind of, there's always been a sense of building of, even going back to the Templars, they built huge strongholds. They built huge facilities on the water. They did unbelievable tunneling under the Dome of the Rock. And that transferred when, to my mind, Templars flowed into the Masons.
And seems like it.
It does seem like it. I don't know if there's any, proof to it or whatever, but the Masons have the trowel and the compass and the square, and yet there aren't a lot of Masons who are Masons.
Oh yeah, like surveying comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be in some cases a good old boy club. And yet they were so involved in the construction of Washington. I wonder, was the architect that did the layout originally, was he a Mason?
I believe so. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it the guy who was French we're talking about? Yeah, so he was a Mason, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So that's part of it. I think they all were to some degree, or a lot of them had some kind of an influence when it came down to that. Masonic influence to some degree. But, they were all into the geometric shapes. And, of course, representation, like the new form of government, I think that's really what it was about. And not just going into the religion aspect, but going into a whole different formula of science and esoteric teachings. In my opinion, I think that's what it is. And if I'm not mistaken, I know you were talking about they use the owl a lot insofar surrounding energetics and association. I believe there's one in connection to the Capitol building. I have to go look for the picture, but I'm pretty sure there's one over there. And I love owls. I'm sure you do too.
Oh, yeah.
Very powerful totems on so many different levels. Wisdom messengers, very very powerful beings.
Well,
Energy.
when you look at, again, I've seen the map drawn out that they used to place all of these buildings and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It did come out to a star.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true too. Yeah.
So what symbolically were they saying to the universe by doing that?
Well, I think it's in the correlation to the Masonic teachings to some degree, but also, I mean, divine energies, divine cosmic flow. You can look at the Eastern stars; it comes to mind, but also the pentagram. I don't know if you want to talk about the pentagram, but in the elements, representation of the elements, air, fire, water, earth, and
Well,
ether.
yeah, because absolutely. And you even do that with Native Americans. Their spirit circles have the
Mm-hmm.
star.
Mm-hmm.
So were they sending a signal to the universe, to people passing by, to was it a statement that was made to the cosmos,
Mm-hmm.
that their hub, at least of this country, had that star? It was representing, it represented what the country supposedly
Mm-hmm.
represented.
Right. Well, it's the frequency too. I mean, the whole geometric structure, the way they consecrated everything with ceremony. I think it all correlates, and of course, the even the 555 apparently in association with the obelisk, apparently that marker. And to me, obelisks are transmitters. I don't know, people see them differently, but I always
Oh
see them
yeah.
as beacons and transmitters. Antennas come to mind, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe they had aluminum at the top. Do they still have the aluminum up there? I don't know, but I think that's fascinating because that's definitely a conductor, a transmitter, right? So yeah, I think there was a lot of higher consciousness thought insofar as the way the construction went, insofar as being connected to the universal source energy and opening that up in protection of that area. And you can kind of expand on it in different formulas. And I think there are a lot of different star systems in association with that too. But the biggest thing I was looking at was just how it was all in connection to cardinal points. I mean, I thought that was really interesting, that it was definitely well thought out. I mean, they took a lot of time insofar as the way they wanted to have everything strategically positioned, which is
if
fascinating.
if you look at the star
Mm-hmm.
and you look at the very center, could that represent a portal?
Oh, I would say for certain.
Where does the center fall?
From the portal?
No, if you're looking at the star,
I'd have to look at the map.
yeah.
I can check it out.
I'm just wondering if that's the case, what better place to put a portal
Here, a kitten. That's my kitten.
would be in the very
Oh, sure.
center.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on there. And I think that's why, right. Yeah, because it's like an altar. I think if that's what they were alluding to as well, when they had everything in alignment with the cardinal points, and almost like it was a Masonic, it looked like it was all arranged as a Masonic lodge, the way they had it organized. So it's possible in a sense that that's what they wanted it to look like, and the energetics in association with that, which I think is.
I mean,
is
knowing
really
knowing that we never know everything that's going on with the government, knowing that there's a government above the government that is in charge, really, or a government above them. If you go to all the trouble of setting something up like that, it's not just to be pretty.
right.
It has to
Symbolic.
have a function as well.
Right. And when I think as above, so below, once again, you're dealing with when you were talking about the maps and the way it's all strategically positioned with the geometrics, and then of course the star, it is above, so below, and I think that's part of the equation, going by those divine forces that are in protection of that area, and also there are a lot of ley lines, if I'm not mistaken, were correlated as well. So yeah, I mean, the more we look at it, the deeper it gets insofar as that goes. I think it's very, very interesting.
I'm going to have to pull up the map again and
Yeah, I'm
look.
going to have to look at it too. Where are you finding that map? Because I didn't look at the map itself.
I Googled it. I've seen it so many times. I'm not sure. I just Googled it. I didn't just now Google it, but when I was looking at it, I think it was in Janet Walters' book,
Okay. So
Goddess
it's not
of
on the internet. Oh, wait a second. Here's one. Well, I don't know how many of these are embellished though. See, I want to look at the raw data. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you can Google it and you can find a lot of these images with the stars and the pentagrams, but how many of these are actually the real ones, like in correlation? We'll have to look. But it does definitely look like a star, a pentagram.
Okay, so wait a minute. I can almost rapidly, not real rapidly, but I think if I can get my website to come up, I'll pull up Janet's book and give you the author and everything, because I think in that book it does go it absolutely does go into the Masonic stuff. Let's see.
I'll have to take a look at that.
And I think the name of her book was American Nation of the Goddess. It was by Janet Walters and Alan Butler.
Okay, cool.
And I am sure that it was there that I started to get into, and I think in the book they actually go into where the where the center is, and I think there is an area that isn't allowed to be plowed and isn't allowed to be anything. It's almost like there is an opening up a door.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it looks like there is something there that you could get into something else from. And I'm wondering if there is a functional portal there. Now, I don't think Trump is a Mason, so he probably wouldn't. I don't know about J.D. Vance.
Oh, I don't think he is, actually. No, actually, he's not a Mason. I double-checked that. Trump is not a Mason, according to the information I've been looking at. So, yeah. And actually, I don't think any of them are. Maybe behind the scenes, but no. As far as I know, yeah. And, that was the first thing I was looking at.
I wonder how many of our congressmen and senators are Masons.
I don't know. I'd have to double check. I think it's fun. It's fun to look into, because I come from the Masonic family on my mother's side. So it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, because there's a lot of secrecy. There's a lot of mystery school teachings. There's a lot of data that's unseen, but the energetics are there, and that's what I mean by the symbolism and the frequency associated with that area. Yeah.
Well, knowing that the Masons are so integrated into our government in places of high authority. I mean, and in his cabinet, he's got women who are not Masons. So I do wonder, there is I would say that probably the Masons that are involved in where they put structures and stuff like that are quietly Masons and doing it very quietly and not advertising the fact that they are Masons. And knowing that I know that when they did the Vietnam veteran wall there, there's something to do with the shadows that fall at certain times that point in other directions that is very profound. And I think I get that material from Janet Walters' book. Her husband was very into Freemasonry, and he became a 33rd degree Mason while he was doing his show. And so there's a lot of Masonic information in the book that I don't know that it comes from her husband, but Butler certainly had a great deal of knowledge of Freemasonry as well. So it's I may have to go back and reread that book. It's funny. I'm going through my whole library and catching up on books that weren't in there. And by the time we get done, there will be close to 1,000 books in there. And
Oh, great library. Nice.
so it's yeah, we're as soon as I get done with my data entry and I've been negligent and catching up. My tech, Greg, is going to reorganize it so you can search by author, by book title, or by category.
Nice. I like that.
Right now, there's only about 500 books. There's going to be closer to 1,000 by the time I get it caught up. And I sit back. For a while, the Hieronymuses were putting their shows up on Nightlight. So, but their books are in there too, because there is and what's really cool is when I get all done, if you pull up a book and you read what it says about it, there's also a link to the YouTube interview that happened on that book. So you can either listen to the interview and then go read the book, or feel you don't have to, whatever. So it's going to be really great.
Sounds great.
Once I get it all entered, yeah, he's patiently waiting for me to catch up on getting the books that haven't been put in there because for some reason I got caught up on something else. So, but there are for the books that I did interviews on, the link to that interview will be on with the book. Some of them are there already, and I'm only halfway through the books that I've missed. So it's I got 2 or 3 weeks work, and then I can just give it to Greg and say, okay, it's yours. Do something with it.
Right. Very interesting. Well, that's going to be fun.
Yes. When it's all done, it's going to be really fun.
Well, it'll go. You have a couple months before the new year, so maybe that can be one of the objectives.
Oh, that definitely will be done before the new year, and then I'm going to be able to write my book.
Wonderful.
So I will have caught up on everything. There's no more backing me up. The only thing that catches me is, these months come along and the predictions for every new month have to be done. So it's kind of.
I haven't asked you about that. It seems grim to me, but we'll see where that goes.
No, actually, this last one was not grim.
Oh, good.
Very
nice.
It's up on the internet.
I'll check it out.
And he'll be mailing out the newsletter, but it's not grim, and it talks about going within. That though the times are very strange, it's like a birthing process, and we are being birthed to a new level of consciousness. And I speak for women all over the world. Birthing can be uncomfortable and painful, but at the end, it's magical. So, and that's what we're going through. And but the prediction, it did talk about. It was interesting. It talked about underwater volcanoes and things where water was going to be an interesting issue coming up. And I keep getting that places that were arid are going to become fertile once again. So that sounded interesting to me. And it's chaos is it's sort of not talking about, don't look at all of the chaos that's going on around you, internationally. Focus on yourself, get yourself balanced. And if you're balanced and your energy is balanced around you, then you have stability to be able to survive whatever happens. And I think one of the other things was to make sure that you fact checked everything that said to you, to make sure that you fact check things before you repeat them, because quite often people will just repeat something that's not true and perpetrate a horrible lie that can spread like a virus. So I found myself saying to a number of people, what's your source of that? I'd like to check it out. Not calling them a liar, just saying I'd like to go back to your source and see where you got it from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing when you say that to someone, how they back up because they don't know what their source was. It was just hearsay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow.
so it's if you're going to repeat something, make sure you have the factual information behind you to say, I got it here, and this is what this says, and this is where it came from. You're welcome to
Providing
go.
the right information to begin with, because you know how 90% of mainstream media can be skewed.
Yeah.
We all know that. I mean, we grew up around the censorship and the illusion, and everything's been edited and sanitized. So it is a repetitive cycle insofar as what they're exposed to is what they're going to repeat. And even if it's the person who's on the media or in the media is not giving the right data because of censorship, and that's their job, is to be censoring, then that's as good as for information, unfortunately. But that's why I like the deep divers and people who actually go in and whether it's personal experience or something else. I think that's
wasn't it Rudolph Hess said that if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes the truth?
Mm-hmm. Creates a false reality for sure. But
and,
yeah, go ahead.
You're seeing that today with people repeating something they heard and then, getting upset and overreacting to it and then spreading something that isn't really the truth. When we talked before the show, we were both complaining about daylight savings time, and I was under the impression initially that daylight saving time was for kids who didn't have to stand in the dark for school buses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they changed it. And it turns out that's not the case. That daylight savings time was initiated in World War I to save energy, because it would mean that the companies who had big machines and stuff, that they didn't have to pay the extra money for operating their machines at night or later into the day, so that it would save on energy. And after a year, it was repealed, and then during World War II, it was reinstated, and it's never been repealed, and there's never been a reason for it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very important that you mention that, so we can get rid of it now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for it to be.
I agree. I despise it. I wish they would, definitely get rid of that. We don't need it for sure.
No.
I don't like, it's always dark and I'm not a fan.
And my body rhythm was set to the other time.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
So, and it's only for 4 or 5 months. It's not even a 6 months on and 6 months off.
Mm-hmm.
It's only 4 months and a couple days or something like that.
Right.
So it's the darkest times of the year. So just leave it alone. And there is only one state, I think it's Arizona. It's out west. I'm not sure exactly where.
I want to say Arizona too. Could be wrong.
That they aren't compelled to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, okay, if that's the case, then I would love to not have to function on it. I didn't like it this morning, getting up at a strange hour.
No, I didn't even sleep. It throws me off completely. And then of course it's so dark, like you were mentioning, at 5 o'clock. It just, I don't like that at all.
No. It's when I mean, yes, the days get longer as we get into summer and stuff like that, but in the wintertime, it's the dark of the night. That's part of, our forefathers and the people that were here, initially, they didn't have daylight savings time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it had to do with blackouts and stuff like that during World War I.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know my grandfather was one of those people that went around and pounded on doors if people's lights were showing after dark.
Really? My goodness.
They were really worried we were going to get bombed.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
You didn't hear that? You didn't?
No. What universe I was in? No. My goodness.
This was East Coast. So, wow. But during World War I, there was blackout times, and you had to have your shades down, and lights couldn't be showing, because if lights showed, people would know where to bomb.
My goodness.
So there were people that neighborhood patrols that went around and knocked on your door and say, your shades are showing, or your light is on, or whatever. And they totally blacked out everywhere.
That's amazing.
So
that's an interesting little tidbit of data. I'm surprised I didn't know that, but yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Well, hey, it's every now and then, I'll be talking to somebody, and somebody will say something, and I'll say, where's that come from? And that and what was the other thing? I came, I saw, I conquered.
Do
you know where that comes from?
No.
I did not either.
All right, so let me know. What is it?
Julius Caesar.
Oh, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to, I wasn't 100% sure. Okay, good. I kind of had an inkling. Very interesting.
It was said in Latin, and it sounds better in Latin than it does in English. But, somebody repeated it, and I said, where's that come from? And he said, oh, I don't know. It's just been out there forever. And I said, but it has to come from somewhere. Somebody has to take credit for it. Julius Caesar. I don't know if I'm getting strange or at this point in time in my life, but these little things bother me, and I really have to find out where they come from and what their meaning is, because it's
all right. I think that's good. That's detail oriented, right?
Well, that, and okay, my other favorite tidbit piece of information you'll never need. However, if you're ever in in one of those contests where it's who knows the most unusable whatever, of course, who shot down the first UFO.
Which one? You talking Roswell?
No, I'm talking the first UFO. Who shot it down?
It's in your book, right? Isn't it in your book?
It is.
Okay, so I guess I'll have to read your book again. Give me the answer. How many
Red Baron. The Red Baron, the German fighter.
The Red Baron?
The real Red Baron. The real Red Baron shot down the very first UFO. He thought it was another piece of material, aircraft, and he shot it down because he didn't recognize it. And it crashed, and the pilot got out and ran into the woods. But he and the other fighter pilot that was with him, they reported it. They just thought it was another plane.
Did he give a description? I mean, what it looked like? He thought it was a plane, but how did you know it was a UFO?
Well, it wasn't a familiar plane. It was it was definitely an aerial, and he shot it, and he shot it down, and it's in a report, and it's right there in the records, and he was the Red Baron, shot the first UFO down.
Red Baron. That is cool. Well, this is trivia night then, because some of this stuff I was not aware of. I'm going to have to look at it. Is in your book, though, right? How could I have missed that? Okay, so I'll check it out again.
Well, the book has a lot of great trivia in it. It really does. And, well, not trivia, but it's good material, and it doesn't go so heavily into anything that it's kind of reminiscent of Mary Joyce's Sky Ships Over Cashiers.
Right. Yeah, I like her.
It's short paragraphs of material. Usually they're on newspaper articles, and it takes I jokingly have said, but it really is. It's a good bathroom book.
Yeah, definitely.
It's short pieces of information that you can put the book down and pick it up and open it up someplace else and learn something else. It's really kind of actually it's Patrick's material, and he did such a great job assembling it, and Ken Godsword was fabulous in putting it together, and publishing it. I'm so appreciative that he got it out there, and I think the more often I have to go back and read through it and check things out, the more I recognize it's a really, really cute isn't the right word, but it's it's a neat little book.
I think it's kind of a nice little resource book too, and also coffee table book comes to mind. It comes down to I don't know if I ever asked you about if he was a contactee type, or did he have any UFO experiences himself?
No.
Okay, I was curious as to what drew him to that, and so far as why was he interested in even
Well,
documenting some of this?
he wrote Bibles in the UFOs in the Bible.
Right. Yeah.
He was a biblical theologian.
Mhm.
And all of the material on giants that he gathered is on my website as well. But actually, the UFO material that's on my website from Patrick goes up to the year 2000. There's nothing, I didn't put anything in beyond 2000
Mhm.
because it's just too convoluted and strange. And,
I
the history of it is more interesting.
Yeah, I
But
think that's good.
we go back to 25,000 years BC with events and stuff like that. So it's really a very exciting. It's a fun trip. It really is.
Mhm.
And but there's so much. It's in the very beginning of UFOs, it's fascinating, and then it gets to the point where the government step in, and then you never know what's true and what's not.
Right. That's where we're at right now. It's just too much strange.
And
As far as that goes, yeah.
and it's like with anything else, if there's some truth behind it, the government is going to hide it. And
Mhm.
I don't know, at one point the government said they didn't want to upset the general public, but I don't think that's true.
Mhm.
Um, so
No,
it's
yeah. Knowledge is power, as you know. So but they'd be better off knowing the truth, honestly, instead of all this obfuscation,
well,
right?
before 1947, before Roswell, people saw UFOs all the time, and it was no big deal.
Mhm.
Nobody was afraid of them.
Right.
It was like, oh, I saw one of those. That's it. And there were, but then you go into the Billy Meyer material, and Billy Meyer was in contact. He was a contactee,
Mhm.
and still is. And his material is phenomenal. And the material that he's written, he could not possibly have written himself.
Mhm.
So that material is quite powerful.
Yeah.
So I kind of and as far as Patrick goes, no, he never saw a UFO. He did pull all of the biblical references that's a wonderful book that he wrote. And he was always jealous because he'd never seen one and I had. So it was like he writes this book that when the book came out, and I forget when it was originally published. I mean, he was burned in effigy. He had people calling him a fraud and a this and a that, and then
Wow.
all of the UFO people started to realize that he had something, and they started to utilize his material.
Yeah.
So he eventually, was on Ancient Aliens, and all of that other cool stuff. He was on Coast to Coast a lot. He was on the X Zone a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and he went after they were trying to kill him. They thought he was really brilliant.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Who was trying to kill him? Was that
Oh, any religious fanatic that thought that he was trying to make something out of the Bible that it wasn't. And the reality is
Oh.
they were describing stuff. I mean, come on,
Well,
Ezekiel's wheels
right,
and
yeah, the Merkaba comes to mind, but also they didn't use the terminology UFO,
well,
but the
they didn't
description
have
would definitely, from our perspective,
right.
you know,
They had no frame of
a
reference.
word for it, right?
So it was
Yes.
kind of a time.
Okay.
It was
That makes
a
sense. Yeah.
it was a cool time, and he finally said, my work here is done, and then he died. So I guess his work was done,
Hmm.
but um, no, he just it was sort of like uh, we did Secrets of the Stones, and we got that documentary out there, and then
I
to
love
be
that,
honest,
by the way.
he he was I don't know, he had stage 4 lung cancer when it was discovered, and he was gone within a year and a half.
It's fast.
So, well,
That's another thing, that the secrets of the stones. Sometime we're going to have to talk about that another time, because I don't know if it has any correlation to Masonic markers or anything, but I'm curious,
it might.
Mhm.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I know that I was in a lot of those chambers, and they had the same feeling that you get when you're inside a crop circle.
Mm,
There were no bugs. There were water. The chambers themselves were corbelled construction, but they were waterproof. They didn't, water didn't gather in them.
mhm,
There was no sign that fires had ever been held in them. There was no residue that one might think, that bodies were in there after death. I mean,
mhm.
I would have felt that.
Right.
Um, there were magnetic anomalies in their entranceways, um,
Mhm.
and nobody ever bothered to dig down to see what the anomaly was.
See, that's the part that interests me. Yeah. Why? Why didn't they dig down?
Well, it's like Kincaid's Cave. They aren't letting anybody into Kincaid's Cave in the Grand Canyon,
Mhm.
and they're saying it didn't exist, but it did.
Mhm. And then what about ground penetrating radar? That's the popular one they could have done, insofar as even just kind of taking a glimpse. I'm sure somebody might have done.
I know Scott Walder tried to get into it. Josh Gates tried to get into it, or tried
Mhm.
to rappel into it, or fly by it. And there's a no-fly zone there that they aren't allowed to go into, and they say it's because the condors are nesting there, but that's
Mhm.
bullshit.
I agree.
So,
This is what I mean by obfuscation and lies. Just open it up and let everybody absorb the data and see and witness, right?
exactly.
I don't
I
see what the
mean,
big problem is.
we believe so many things that are so outlandish. The reality cannot be as strange as the truth.
Well, that's the thing, is that would erase
And
all the crazy. If you just give everybody the real raw data, then there's no exaggeration anymore, right? Everybody has the same information. I think that would make more sense.
well, Werner von Braun said that he got information from up there.
Mhm.
Um, but and Orsich, I can't remember her first name, a German psychic that was giving Hitler and the Reich information psychically, said
Mhm.
it was with otherworldly people, but she disappeared, and nobody knows where
She
she
really
is.
did
Or
disappear.
yeah, she really did.
Very
Um,
interesting.
so and yet when a
Hmm.
picture of her was shown to Billy
Yeah.
Meyer,
Wow.
Billy
Breakaway
Meyer said,
society.
yeah, he said that's Semyasi. So one doesn't know. Um,
Oh, yeah.
so they've been
Oh,
here.
Maria
They
Orsic. Yeah, yeah.
Maria.
She does look like her. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, so it's people can put together the pieces, the fragments, and not understand the purpose to it, and
Mhm.
it's very sad because I think we'd all grow a lot if we had a little more of the truth. I mean,
Yeah, just
they're never gonna give us all of the truth, but if they gave us just a little, it would be kinda
well, some
cool.
solid foundation. Yeah, I totally agree. It would alleviate so much. I would like to see that. I really would, because that way everybody else, everybody has the foundation of something versus this exaggeration, or, whatever, the spin-off realities. Yeah, it makes
Well,
more sense.
it's sort of like, a dark room is scary until you turn the light on,
Mhm. Yep.
and that's what they've got where the truth is. And there's a level of government. It's not the one we know of, but there is a level that has a lot more information and hasn't shared it. I
Mhm.
mean,
Right.
you know, ancient aliens. I mean, there's truth out there, but
Mm.
how to put it together is a whole nother ball of wax.
Right. Well, let's hold the run the energy for that revealing act, huh? For the
Yeah,
2026 coming up around the corner here. We can't go on like this forever.
well, sure we can.
That'd be nice.
I mean,
Well,
there's always another level that knows more than we do. That's what, yeah. I've often said I get the feeling that humanity, that the species, are pieces that are being played with on a game board that we don't know what the game is. We're just moved
mhm,
around and eliminated, and we don't know why.
mhm. Yeah, it
So
certainly seems like a game board.
it just it's frustrating
Mhm,
because given an understanding of history and what's going on, and when you look at all of the gods and goddesses and how similar they all were, the Greek, the Roman, the Norse, they all had similar background stories, and yet they were explained according to the culture that was worshiping them. And then when you get into the biblical stuff,
mhm.
that's even crazier. So you know, um, it would be nice if things were kind of spread out there, and just give me a handbook, give me the owner's manual, and
Mhm.
I'll be happy. I'll put it in my
Right.
library.
There you go.
Well, we
Galactic
we have
Library.
we have done our hour, and
Awesome.
you want to tell people where you can be
Sure.
found and your shows and stuff.
Certainly. Well, thank you very much, Barbara. Once again, a lovely hour with you this month. I'm available over there on revolution.radio. Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturday night, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, and then, of course, Hyperspace Night Files Friday, Studio A at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
And you'll be back here at the end of the month, the last Sunday
Same
of the
bat
month.
time, same bat place.
Thank you so
It's your
much.
turn for a topic.
Yeah, I'll pick a good. You had a great topic tonight. I was
Well, thank you.
impressed. Yeah,
Well,
I'll
thank you.
try to.
I thought it was fun.
It was a great topic. So I will see you at the end of the month.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a lovely weekend and thank you.
You too. Bye bye now.